And I don't want to go over to, oh, Jim Houlihan, where are you, Jim? I want to thank you for your leadership. Just 2 days ago, we were talking about it, weren't we?
Extensively.
Extensively. I was fishing on a wilderness lake in northern Canada. There were no other boats, and this boat started coming for us. And we had to talk about early childhood education. So I want you to know that your influence, Todd, reaches out to everywhere. What I'd like to do is talk a little bit about what we try to do, why we try to do it, and why I think in many ways the possibilities for progress on this issue are more favorable now than they were then, even though I think we made some progress. In those days, we set up a subcommittee on children, youth, and families. Hadn't existed. And we started taking testimony. We started traveling around the country. We started hearing from experts. It was still a field that was not fully shaped, at least in terms of national politics. And before it was over, we shaped this act because we can see just what you're talking about here, that the best hope for moving forward was to start in the early years and provide our youngest the chance to prosper, and particularly to what we used to call cheated children, kids that come from burdensome backgrounds, communities that have a hard time supporting almost anything that helps children, and all the multiple issues that we're talking about at our table here, even in Elbert Lake. We were able to get broad bipartisan support. We had, I thought, the support of the administration, at least Elliot Richardson, the head of the Health and Education Department, and we shaped Child and Family Services Act, and that's now ancient history though, but this bill was designed to go right down to the local level to establish children's councils to help every child, every low and moderate income child, and others as we build. It was a program when we reached full levels that would involve several $1 billion a year, and it was a national commitment by the Congress to add something new in American life, based on the idea that we're really missing something here if we don't give our children a chance. We heard from people like Ed Ziegler from Yale, Yuri Bronfenbrenner, I think from Cornell. We had a scholar here at the University of Minnesota, Gisela Kanapka. People remember her? She was one of the national experts. And Irving Harris, the businessman, a Minnesotan, but he went to Chicago, and he had a lot of money, and he went at it because he just thought it made the most sense to put our energy and our resources into early education. And I think there's a Irving Harris funded chair at the University of Minnesota, is there not?
That's right.
On early childhood, which has done a lot of good work. Of course, Don Fraser and the others were also moving in this. We had a team of economists from Stanford that had done remarkable work on who goes to college, broken down by quartiles, wealthy people, upper middle class people, lower middle class, and study a lot because it showed that people from wealthy families, as you might expect, go on to college with the most frequency. A lot of them test with high scores, but they also went on to college. But they also proved that when you got down to the lowest quartile, that there were also a lot of very talented young people in that group. The testing and so on that did, there were a lot of people there who you could predict would have really good careers ahead of them. But they didn't go on to college. And they didn't somehow prosper. And we argued that our nation, this was a local problem, it's a human problem, it's a national problem too. Because we couldn't afford to waste millions of young kids who could have learned and prospered, but who were not going to be able to do so because there was no help for them when they were needed. Well, we passed this act. I don't have the numbers now, but I think overwhelmingly it was large bipartisan margins, passed the House with large margins, and then something happened. The right wing got a hold of this bill, and they made an attack on it that this bill Sovietized American youth, that this bill was designed to strip from parents the authority that they needed to run their families. Not a word of truth to it, but the issue took on some momentum. And we were also dealing with this issue at a time when Americans had not yet fully thought through or accepted the idea that women as well as men may have to work. And there's a lot of resistance that you'd hear, well, this is a man's job. A man should have this work. Women should stay at home. That's not their role. And the change that we've gone through in America today, where, look at the California primary, it doesn't get anywhere. The tremendous changes we've made in that issue. This is a quantum leap from where we were when we were trying to get this issue adopted. Nixon vetoed it. We passed it 3 more times in the Senate, and finally people got afraid of the issue. They didn't want to touch it. And it's been distressing to me to think about having lost almost maybe 2 generations of young people who need this help and aren't getting it. And the exciting thing about what you're doing and what Todd and the rest of you are doing on the board and other ways here is Minnesota is putting together the pieces, something here, something there, legislator here, local levels here, county board here, private foundation here, and so on, try to get as much forward momentum as we can for children in Minnesota as possible. And I'm amazed at how well you've done. We've got the program started at the legislature. This is no time for big new spending programs, but you're able to get through the session protecting most of this. We have many foundations that are directly, intensely involved in this. I like the networking that's going on here across the board, wherever people become interested in this issue. And we need to really keep building this for so many reasons. Minnesota, I believe, is slipping. Nobody wants that, but if you look at the statistics, this marble state, and I used to tell the Japanese when they asked me about Minnesota, I said, well, we don't know quite why, but we're smarter. And for a long time we could say that's true, because the statistics would tell us that. But there's pressure on all of that. I mean, we've got some school administrators. There's pressure on that, and the budgets are tighter than ever. And to try to keep going on the reforms and changes needed here, I think are really important. This issue, as has been mentioned, is not only an issue of what's right, what's moral, but it's also whether it's good economics. Best way to invest our money. Art has talked about that. But so it's not just a matter of heart, it's a matter of just hard, smart investment of our money to build and strengthen America's future. But we got a lot of work to do. I read your statistics. It doesn't surprise me. A couple of years ago, I went out to, was it the Noka Ramsey Community College commencement? And when the graduates came across to get their degrees, I was stunned by the fact that there are very few males coming across the platform. And I asked the chancellor, I said, where are the young men? He said they don't make it through high school. They never show up here. We're not talking Afghanistan. We're talking about Minnesota here. And that told me that while we've made some progress, we got some really deep, hard problems here that need to be dealt with. Finally, I think we've got to keep the moral issue up there. Eric Erickson, the great Harvard child psychologist, once said that the deadliest of all possible sins is the mutilation of a child's spirit. I believe that. I think it is a sin, and I think it is deadly, and I think it's going on every day. And the good thing about what you're doing here, Todd, is we're fighting back